Welcome to AI Unscripted, where I interview the most interesting people in the industry about artificial intelligence, automation, and anything else in between. But because I couldn't find one of those, I thought I'd introduce you to Mr. Ed Halsey. Ed, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you, Kieran. That is definitely the worst intro I've ever had on any show. So thank you for.
Well, it is you. I can't imagine there's any better than that one, but let's work forward and we'll see if we can work our way up. So, Ed, for those who don't know you, and know that I am joking, folks, because Ed and I know each other for years, would you mind doing a quick introduction, sir?
Absolutely. So I'm Ed Halsey. I'm VP of Marketing at Genesis, which is a feature-rich policy administration system for the insurance industry, but have a background across the whole of insurance, really, having started as an underwriter once upon a time when my parents told me this isn't a hotel, go out and get a job. And as with most people, I stumbled into insurance, and then latterly into kind of selling software, selling services into the insurance industry at the likes of DXC, Automation Anywhere, and the like. So yeah, very much an insurance bod turned technologist latterly, and very much enjoying it.
There must be a collective noun for that, but I don't know what it is. Again, same, come from insurance, brilliant industry, often underrated. But let's talk a little bit more about AI in insurance. So is AI going to be the next big thing, Ed, or is it already the next big thing?
Yeah, I mean, you can't turn anywhere at the moment without mention of AI. We run a newsletter, and when we're looking for the kind of brain food for our audience to sell them to send them every week, it's always AI is always the main stories. It's become a bit of a running joke, but it's really interesting as to where we are at the moment in AI in terms of the Gartner hype cycle. If we have a look, that we've kind of gone over that peak of inflated expectations, and we're heading down into the trough of disillusionment. So there's going to be hard times ahead for AI, and I think there's a really good reason for that. I think, firstly, and I thought I was the only one who'd spotted this. I think I mentioned this to you earlier. I thought I was a genius. I'd noticed it, and then I found out this morning loads of people have pointed this out. But it was really interesting to me that the Gartner hype cycle actually really just follows the exact shape of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect being this idea that when something's new and you know very little about it, you think you're an expert. So it kind of goes out, and you're how much you think you know versus how much you actually really know is completely disproportionate, and it goes up, and then you realize at one point, oh, actually I know very little about this subject, and then your knowledge base goes down. And there was that exactly the same as the hype cycle. And I think that's what we're seeing in insurance at the moment with AI. Is we've kind of gone about tackling it the wrong way with AI, as we have done with a lot of technology in the industry, which is, oh, new exciting shiny thing, how can we use it? And it's completely the wrong approach for how you should do it. It should be, oh, amazing, shiny new thing. Let's park that thought for a moment. What are the things that we still need to solve in our business? We now have that in our toolkit. Is that something that can fix any of the major problems? And I think what we're probably guilty of doing, and what causes that kind of down into the trough of disillusionment, is you go, oh, AI is brilliant. Let's find something to point it at. And it ends up being a kind of edge use case or a niche use case, something that isn't at the core of our business. We spend loads of time on it, loads of money on it, just to say that we've implemented AI. And then it doesn't give the return on investment that we'd hope for. It doesn't make that significant difference because it wasn't pointed at the right stuff. And then you go into the trough of disillusionment. Then I think you probably get a little bit more of a feel for it, and you realize, okay, here's where we can use it. A bit more time passes. Let's not get overexcited. Let's carry on focusing on the big problems our business has, and then seeing if AI is a solution for that. So I think it's all in the approach. We're probably going to have a tough year ahead, or a little bit longer. And then we're going to get into that kind of realistic stage where it will really start to make a difference in the industry.
I wonder, though, Ed, is that uniform for everyone? So let me explain. I was writing an article this morning on agentic AI, and agentic AI, for those folks who maybe don't know what it is, you have narrow AI, which basically does one specific thing. You need to tell it what to do, kind of similar to robotic process automation, and you tell it, it does it, doesn't go outside of the parameters. Whereas agentic AI, it sort of works autonomously, independent of human action. So once you feed it enough data and you point it at something, it goes and works itself out. So imagine just take something really random, like an autonomous underwater vehicle that's mapping the ocean floor. I can let it loose and it can work through obstacles and then come back up to the top, because neither practical nor realistic for me to be there. But it was interesting this morning. I was reading a multitude of articles as part of the research piece, and it says, and agentic AI can do fraud analytics. And I was reading further on, and generative AI can do fraud analytics is now suddenly possible. And you're going, hold on, I did that back in the year 2006. So I kind of wonder, is it that AI works because it's an 80-year-old overnight success story? I was a head of data science for 13 years, a decade ago, and we were doing all of this and literally turned a business into a decision insight, data-driven org that trebled its turnover in about 3 years. But now we've a pile of people coming into the AI industry who don't have a clue. I say that respectfully, about whether AI works or doesn't work, whether automation works or doesn't work, how business works, because they're so new to it. They're potentially the ones spending tons of cash making mistakes, which will cause a trough of disillusionment. But there are people out there who are getting tremendous value from AI, automation, and all sorts of other technologies.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's really interesting that kind of autonomous AI that you talk about. You've trained it to do something, but then it goes off on its own and actually can work stuff out. Because how far are some of the large language models away from that? Because if I look at ChatGPT, for example, as an example, I've built my own GPTs for certain purposes of things I want to do.
You use a lot of generative AI yourself in everyday use. This is the bit that I'm really interested in here.
Yeah, and I think I've found that those GPTs I've used, as I've trained them, as you say, with more data, they've actually started to go out on their own and go, oh, I think what he probably means is this, or I'll start to go down this route because that might help get the solution I want. So it's actually, it's nearer than we think it is, and we're probably using that level of AI in everyday life. I mean, the example you gave, I do use it in everyday life, but I just finished a project a while ago where I'd started creating characters for a video game that I'd been playing that didn't have the artwork that I liked. It wasn't in the style I liked. I liked hyper realistic artwork, and I started creating a few of them. And then the guy who actually made the game reached out and contacted me and said, how would you feel, we're re-releasing the next version of the game later this year, how would you feel about doing all the artwork for it in that style, because I really like it? So I used generative AI to create all of these characters. When I said yes, I didn't realize there was 3,000 plus characters in this universe. So it was a little bit more of a project than I thought. But even then, it's really interesting because I looked at how I could use AI to help me optimize that workflow. Sitting and hand writing all the text to image prompts wasn't going to be practical. So I did a data extract of every character in the database into a simple CSV format, fed that to ChatGPT, created my own GPT that queried that, and then used computer vision to look at the previous versions of the graphics and the characters that were in the game, pull out all their pertinent features, and then kind of, in Excel, we'd call it concatenate, right? It created a concatenated, I don't know if that's a word, but we'll go for it, prompt that I could then feed straight into MidJourney, which was my generative AI tool of choice, and could feed it straight into there and then generate the image. Now, that in itself is using 3 different types of generative AI to get to a certain solution. And it was fascinating to me from when we first started the project to when I finished the project. I ended up doing the project all over again because the technology had come along so far in 3 months that I was no longer happy, because towards the end of the project, some of the images I was creating were so notably better than the ones at the start. I was like, I'm going to have to do all this again because I couldn't cope with how much better they were. So no, really, really interesting way that I was able to use that for something of my own interest and a little project that I wanted to take part in. I also used it to help me write. I'd long wanted, as you can imagine from a lot of the content I've produced, I wanted to write my own screenplay. Had a couple of ideas for something, and I actually used ChatGPT to create. So I built my own GPT for it again to create the universe for me. And what I mean by that is the lore that sits behind it. So who are the characters? What are they like? What are their motivations? How do they interact with one another? So that I could kind of sense check this universe as I was going along, and it could call out to me things like, yeah, they wouldn't say that, or actually they should probably be saying it to this character because that works better, or that contradicts something they said earlier, whatever it might be. But creating the law in there to keep me true to what I was trying to write. Again, really weird use case, welcome to my brain, but you can appreciate how much I'm using it every day for every little thing that I do.
Then that comes back to my next question, which is, and I do the same thing, not MidJourney, I use GPTs all the time. And I think the difference between the agentics and the GPT is one creates and one does. So ChatGPT will create content, MidJourney create images, but then it stops. And that's where people were using robotic process automation to take the data and do something with it. Now, large action models or agentics, whatever you want to call them, take the data, do something. So imagine you do you create something like a generative AI customer service agent, and the agent's answering questions. The next minute it can go and take the data and take the responses and put them into CRMs and everything else, link it all up. Exciting stuff, not available in a shop anywhere near you today, all hype, of course. But I wonder, taking away the hype and taking away what we know people are going to burn dollars by spending money that's not theirs. And I always make that recommendation. If it was coming out of your pocket, would you spend it? Normally get a no. And I met someone recently whose team, I kid you not, is 223 pilots. And I asked him, how many of those would you pay for yourself? And he went, well, none of them. And I said, what the hell are you doing those for? And the same thing as you said, it was because someone in the company wanted it, and therefore they just did it. And you're going, oh my God. But the question remains then, Ed, is it just understanding of where the use cases are in insurance that is the difference between succeeding using AI and generative AI technology in the insurance industry and not?
Yes, is the really simple answer to that. It ties in, actually, interestingly, to a conversation I was having with someone yesterday about investment in the insurtech sector, and the fact that we saw during the boom a lot of people come up with what you thought were really great ideas, and spent a lot of money and got a lot of investment for these like really great ideas in theory, but that in practice, when you rolled them out into the industry, they didn't really work. We've got this amazing AI and this amazing automation tool, and it gets data from all these third-party services, and it's going to enrich your whole system. Oh, good. Well, our system that we use is monolithic and has no API. How are you planning on getting that information in there? Oh, yeah, we haven't thought about that bit. Now you can obviously use a kind of crude RPA to maybe get that data in there, or something similar. Although interesting that a lot of the insurance industry technology is built on Silverlight, and a lot of the leading providers don't integrate with Silverlight, or at least last time I checked, they didn't. So not even aligned to insurance. But yeah, very, very much a case of, is it a good idea, or is it a good idea with practicality? Does it pass the sniff test, the taste test, the look test? Is it actually going to work in the businesses you're trying to sell to and that you're trying to roll it out into? And I think that's a big mistake I see made. A good idea is only a good idea if you can use it. That's part of it being a good idea, right?
There's something circular about that. But I wonder if that goes back to, Ed, what you're saying earlier on. Whether you call it product market fit or something else, or you go, look, actually, what's the business opportunity, the business challenge I'm trying to take hold of? So, for example, insurers make a lot of money by identifying the right client at the front end who hopefully has a large customer lifetime value. And by that, we mean they'll stay with you multiple years. You'll earn a lot of money. You'll be reasonably cheap to serve in comparison to those who spend tons of time complaining and doing all sorts of stuff. And then when you're renewing them, you put an appropriate amount of effort into individuals. That is AI written all over it all day long. But interestingly, when I'm talking to people about, what are you going to do in insurance? They go, well, we're going to fix underwriting and actuarial science. And you're going, that feels complicated. Why not go for the low-hanging fruit first? Not that retention and customer lifetime value analytics are small, but they're on the far easier end to implement than anything else. Even if I'm an insurer, I'm looking at my ad spend, my ad segmentation, the optimization of my creatives like you're doing a moment ago. So I could ream off, and maybe that's the problem. I worked in insurance for 10, 11 years, about 20, 30 different AI models that you could integrate into your business that would allow a brilliant insurance professional to make far better decisions using great decision insight that's been AI generated than anything else. but I'm just not seeing volumes of those conversations happening at present. It's more people doing stuff with AI, and that stuff will usually never stick.
Yeah, I think going back to the boom of insurtech, I think we saw a lot of that, where a lot of people came out with these new insurtech ideas, and they were nearly all about distribution. They were all about the point of sale, and we've got this amazing buying journey, etc., etc. I think what I take from what you were saying there is actually there's so many other areas of insurance that we really need to optimize. The main bit that actually really matters in what we do as an industry is the claims process. Like, it's great bringing risks on, but actually the bit that customers really need to be slick, the bit they really need to be frictionless, the bit that actually is the 100% final taste test of whether the product you sold them was any good or not is the claims journey. And actually how slick that is, and whether that's kind of automatically updating the system so they can just log in themselves and see the latest state of it with an appropriate thing. Or I've seen some great tech from I think it's a Google thing for cars, where it can actually use computer vision to, you take a photo of your car and it looks at your car and it assesses the damage of that. It looks against the model and goes, well, that's 3 mil out of position of where we would expect it to be for a car like that. Therefore, there's a dent in it. Therefore, that's going to need a new front panel. Therefore, the bit underneath it is probably bust as well. We're going to need another one of those. Here are the parts that we need for that. Explodes the vehicle out in terms of kind of looking at all the parts that are associated. Something like that is amazing, right? That's not someone doing it by eye. That's going to speed up the process. It's going to help us with our supply chains. We're going to be able to do things quicker. That to me is a great use case for insurance. Let's make claims easier. That's the thing that matters, rather than selling. And then guess what? If you're great at claims, if you're someone who gets a reputation for solving claims really quickly with a high rate of success, and you've kept, more importantly, you've kept the cost of the claim down because of how quickly you've dealt with it, because everyone knows time is the biggest enemy of a claim. Is, you know, the longer it goes on, the more solicitors get involved and the more hire cars get rented out and the like. So the quicker that we can solve it, the lower the claim is, the more profit you make. Mm-hmm. So if we can focus it on that, which is the thing that matters, the sales will come, because reputationally you'll be known as the ones who solve everything quickly and have a great claim service. And actually people will pay a premium for that. And maybe once and for all, we'll actually get away from the people going for the cheapest price for stuff on the aggregators, which, you know, was a huge disruptor to the industry.
Yeah, something very simple. Again, as you said, just meeting the most basic need, because mine is, I think you judge insurance when you need to claim. Fingers crossed you never need to. It's one of those products you buy and hope you never use. But making it the least frictionless, the most frictionless, intelligent journey that you can get to select cover that's going to protect you, your family, your business, or whatever else, absolutely key. So where do you see the future of insurance going now, AI or not related, Ed, to send our audience away with the gift of knowledge and the gift of foresight?
A gift of knowledge, yes. I think the important bit for me is on the AI front. I don't want to be scared of AI. I'm not personally scared of AI. I think AI is not there to replace people. It's there to make people better. It's there to augment people. It's there to, we'll be familiar with this, having worked in the automation space, to be that digital twin to help you do more faster, return you to the higher value tasks. If I look at a broker, for example, you know, I used to have my own brokerage, insurance brokerage, and in there, we saw the study from PFK Littlejohn, the CII, and I think Concilio, in which they found that 63% of a broker's day is spent on petty admin. 63%. 25% on top of that is spent in a BMW 3 Series driving around the M25. So actually the amount of broking that they do is very, very small. And that's the whole thing they're paid for. It's where their expertise is. It's where they can make a difference. But they're spending all their time on low value tasks. So AI for me is the opportunity to get rid of all of that petty admin, the stuff that they add absolutely no value to that interaction at all, and be on the phone to customers, be in front of customers, be really broking that risk around the market, and spending time on stuff that's actually, you would hope, going to give them far more job satisfaction at the end of the day. They're going to go home and really feel like they've made a difference and done the stuff that the whole reason they took that job, because that's where their expertise was. So that's my main thing, is I don't think we should massively feel threatened by it. And those who do, I would encourage them to see it as an opportunity to upskill. See it as, if you really think that's coming, if you really think you're going to be replaced, great. Where can you upskill? Where can you make a difference? How can you make yourself irreplaceable to your business? And those are just great principles to have at any time, let alone when you're worried about being replaced by AI. But where can I make a difference within my business? And go out, learn new skills. Maybe you'll find something you enjoy way more than the thing you're doing at the moment, or something you can make a much bigger difference than you were doing previously by broadening your horizon. So that would be my encouragement on that. In terms of the insurance industry itself, where do I think that's headed? Three things really. I think we need to see greater connectivity still. We've seen Blueprint 2, and we've seen the promises of that, and why that's been put in place. I absolutely agree with the principles of it, core principles. We do need to better digitize the London market. Data does need to be better. Processes need to be better. 100% get that. And I think we need connectivity to do that. I'd like to see the death of monolithic, disconnected legacy platforms once and for all. I just really don't. I think they've held the industry back, and I'd like to see a move away from that. Speed to market needs to be better. People need to be more agile. I like lightweight ecosystems that are interconnected with tools that you can bring in from all over the place. That's what we need. And then finally, and that kind of ties into the third thing, which is greater workflow automation, more control over what you're doing, how you're doing it, automate the really mundane parts of that process, the bits that you just do the same thing every time. And then, automate the rest of it so you can get back to the high value tasks, and so that you're working as efficiently as possible. I always say about, do more faster. That's what I think the insurance industry needs. If we do all of those things, everything else kind of sorts itself out, because supply chains improve because the workflow's better, the order gets in earlier, the cost of the claims go down because we're dealing with it quicker. So all of the challenges we fundamentally have revolve around those three things, and those not having those are the things that have probably held us back as an industry up until this point. So that would be my hopes.
Amen, Ed. If you can do all that and keep the cost of insurance affordable, more people will buy it. I'd love to see all that myself personally. I think it's all possible. I do worry, just small W, that everybody gets so excited and distracted by another technology. And AI is a powerful technology, but we've got all the technologies we've needed for years to do the things that we should be doing. And we just need to get on with it. And I think that old phrase, there's comfort or growth. I think those who choose comfort and don't grow and don't learn will be replaced in the workplace, and through no fault of any employer, but we need to keep ourselves valuable. The insurance industry is no different. We as individuals have a responsibility to grow and to learn and develop and look at the technologies that are coming in, use them where appropriate to solve business problems, to create value for customers who are willing to pay a premium. Not too much of a premium, but a premium on top to buy that particular product or service to keep us all in business. Ed, I wish you every success. Thank you for coming on today and sharing. Folks, I recommend you connect with Ed. He produces some amazing content. And if you follow along and watch the work that he's doing with his generative AI tools and experience and practices, and he shares it widely with everyone as well, he's very generous around his content and the work that he does, you will learn a lot. Ed, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks a lot.
And thanks to everyone listening in today as well.